Hello everyone, my name is Mohammed Hamza. So here I would like to share my review about a book from Willie A. Renadia at Principles for Teaching and English and Learning English. Uh, in his book there are 8 principles that is important for teacher and learner to know as a English English language learner. So for the first is the primacy of input. In the language classroom, input is essentially refers to oral or written language that a learner receives. So we as a teacher must be become a models for our students to give them knowledge, oral and the writing language. And then the second principles is meaning focused output is important. Learner output is useful for uh, learners language development. It can make learners pay more attention to grammar, thus enabling them to produce more accurate language. It can provide them with an opportunity to try out newly learned grammatical points. It can facilitate faster access and retrieval existing linguist knowledge, which through repeated use improves learners UNC and Naily. It enables them to develop their ability to produce longer stretches of speech, thus enhancing their discourse skill. And then the third principle is to not to overteach grammar. So we tend to teach too much grammar, and many of grammar items we teach are often not immediately useful for our students. So as a teacher, we need to know uh, what kind of grammar that our students need to know first, and then so we need to know their levels. And then the principle is focused on high frequency words. So teacher must give the students high frequency words. That means the words that use the most in their real life instead of the less one. And the fifth principle is teach words in meaningful chunks. Also, uh, the, the sixth is focused on fluency development. The seventh is motivation is key to language learning. So, teacher must give their students motivation so the students can be motivated more and more to learn uh, language, especially the English language. And then the last principle is amount and intensity of instructions go hand in hand. So uh, here I will compare two books. The first book is English when the first is English when English rings a bell, or Ministry of Education and Culture by Siti Wahidiniah, Asep Gunawan, Diantri, and Yuli Rulani Khatimah. Okay, 8 core principles for teaching and learning English in these books. So the first is primate input. This book input input is good because there are many useful tips for from each chapter. It makes students more easier to understand the materials, and they can learn it by themselves using those the tips that book has provide. So the input is nice for the students to increase their level in English language. And the second principle is meaning focused output is important. This book focused on the example from the meaning or explanation, and from that many students truly can't truly understand the true meaning from all of the examples that book had give. So uh, this book sometimes is kind of hard to us understand for new language learner, but in some point uh, it has its own it has its own good, or yeah, it has its own power to give the student uh, make the student focused to the output. And then the next is the next principle is do not to over teach grammar. This book explain too much using grammar, so it makes some students unable to understand correctly the discussion is being taught. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Muhammad Hamzah. So here I would like to share my okay, and the next one is do not overteach grammar. These books explain too much grammar, so some students unable to understand correctly the discussion that is being taught. They are required to expand their vocabulary and improve their grammar, so that is easy to understand learning when the students learn on their own. So as a teacher, we need to keep grammar to the students by their level, so it's easier to them to understand, and as a teacher we also must give the students vocabulary first and then the grammar, so we must focusing on the vocabulary. And the next one is focus on higher frequency words. Uh, this book does not only focus on the high frequency words, but they provide tips in each chapter to make it easier for students to understand the material. So this book is good on uh, to giving the students uh, about vocabulary on high frequency words. And then the next is teach words in meaning chunks. This book also provide the examples and tips to students on how to adjust the use of words based on their needs. And then the next one is focus on fluency development. This book's focused on the, the fluency developments. There's many examples from each chapter, so students can practice and train their fluency. And seven is motivation is key to language learning. This book gives a motivation words and message to the students from each chapter. So I think it's a good books. And then yeah, it's a good books because uh, the book gives the students motivation by each chapter. And then the last one is amount and intensity of instruction go hand in hand. The teachers give a lesson slowly. From this, students will find it easier to understand and capture the material presented by the teacher. And then the second book is English Teacher's Book, When English Rings a Bell. The author is also Siti Wahidah Asep Gunawan, Diantari, and Yuli Rulani Hatimah. Okay, uh, as we can see, the 8 core principles for teaching and learning English. So the first here is primate input or the primacy of input. Okay, uh, this book input is great because it is uncomplicated and provides helpful tips from each chapter. So uh, this book make it easier for the teacher to understand the material and give the students uh, knowledge. We the books also provide some tips so it can help the teacher to learn and give to learn and teach their students. Okay, and the second one is meaning focused meaning Meaning focused output is important. This book not focused in the meaning but the practice. Therefore, students are allowed to ask more questions about the materials and practice in from what they have learned. Student is teach how to learn the materials by themselves by using their own understanding. So this book, uh, so because of this book is teacher's book, this book gives the teacher how to give the students or how to learn the materials by themselves by using their uh, uh, by using their background knowledge or their own understanding about the materials. And then the next principle is do not overteach grammar. As we can see in the student's book, this the teacher books also uses more grammar to teach material to students, and it's too difficult to the teacher to give the students or. And then the next one is focus on high frequency words. The book focused on how to master the words or sentences. Students have to be able to master and use it correctly. As we can see from the book, there are many assessment tables in each chapter. It's for check the students' ability after learning. And then the next one is teach words in meaningful chunks. In these books also provide the tips to the students on how to adjust the use of a word. And then focus on fluency development. These books focused on the fluency development. Students do a practice, and if they do a mistakes, the teachers will tell them and give some advice to them. The seven is motivation is key to language learning. Teachers always give students a motivated words before the lesson is started so that they are more excited and do not discourage to learn and practice more about all the material they have learned before, and that makes the students think that English is fun, not bored, and make them more confident to use English in social focused focus on high frequency words. The books focused on how to master the words or sentences. Students have to be able to master and use it correctly. As we can see from the books, there are many assessments in each chapter. It's for checked the student's ability after learning it. And then the next one is teach words in meaningful chunks. In this book, also provide the tips to the students on how to adjust the use of a word based on their needs. And then the next one is focus on fluency development. These books focused on the fluency development. Students do a practice, and if they do a mistakes, the teacher will tell them and give them some advice. The seven is motivation is key to language learning. In every closing activities and uh, when the activities is started, teachers in these books is always remind the students about what has been uh, about a the teachers always give the student a motivation, so they are more excited and make the think that learn English is fun, not bored, and make them more confidently use English on social conversation. And the last one is amount and intensity of instruction go hand in hand. The teachers gives lessons slowly. For this, from this, students will find it easier to understand and capture the materials presented by the teachers. So that's all from me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Oh,